And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal, the full story. Real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
And good morning. Welcome to the Friday version of the Lance Roberts Show, Financial Fitness Friday. We have kidnapped Chris Salcedo. We'll figure out what the ransom is down the road. No, we're kidding. I'm sure he's taking a worthy break, and we'll be back on Monday. So not much in politics, but listen, we're going to talk about markets. And markets are not red or blue. They are green. But not today. Because we got Dow futures off about 200 points this morning. Markets are up. Domestic markets, S&P 500 is up close to 4% this year. International markets up a little bit more. You wouldn't know it based on some of the volatility that you probably are seeing in your portfolio versus last year, where everything was smooth as glass. It is amazing how $1.9 trillion in stimulus can calm the seas, coat them in a layer of cash.
And lift all boats.
Lifts all boats. And now consumers are back in the dungeon. When you look at one, personal savings rate. See, I was this jerk, Jonathan, during COVID, which the response to COVID was the stupidest thing I think I've ever lived through. And I've lived through a lot of stupid stuff. Our overall shotgun pseudoscience approach to what we did that I still think the country has not recovered from, nor have, unfortunately, our children recovered from, education-wise. When we were all locked up in our homes, we saw the personal savings rate increase by roughly, I think it was like 13%.
Massive.
Now we're back to levels which we are usually, 1-2% on personal savings rate. So people had all this cash. Then you throw in $1.9 trillion.
Yep.
And I really did believe, maybe this is what we call, and there's a great paper out there I wrote about in my book in 2012 called The Great Recession Mindset. My grandparents grew up through the Great Depression. I mean, they saved everything. Listen, remember Wonder Bread bags with the little balloons on them? My grandmother would use those bags so much, all the balloons were gone. All the colors were gone. I'm saying, Grandma, you think some of that paint is leaking off into our food? It won't kill you. Well, what if it did? What if it did? Lead paint. We used to chew. You know how you people eat potato chips? Okay, baby boomers and Gen X, lead paint chips.
Explains a lot.
It does, doesn't it? Especially for the younger boomers and some of the Gen Xs. But no, we went out and became number one A grades consumers more than ever, which is obviously 70% of the economy is us going out there and spending money.
That's right.
At that point, this is what I want you all to think about. If you haven't turned us off already, I'm going to try to scream like Chris. Ah! Get all riled up. I think I need more coffee, though. Think about this. What was I going to think about? Good Lord, what was I going to say? See, look, my mind is just like Elvis. It has left the building. Because I get so emotional about how we responded to the whole COVID thing and how irresponsible we were to literally close down all these businesses.
Yeah.
Americans tend to be resilient, Texans especially, but I'm surprised we have made even this much progress. But when you see the grades out there, where we are from a math and science perspective compared to the rest of the world, it scares me.
Absolutely. It's staggering. Just a complete drop-off.
So what I was going to say, and thank you for allowing that segue to get my brain back into my head.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have issued tariffs, when Powell kept telling you that inflation was transitory, We used to call it permatory, by the way. And it still is permatory in many ways. People didn't have price consciousness, as I call it. In other words, if I had money burning a hole in my pocket and tariffs were up there, and say my washing machine went up by $200, I don't care. I am price agnostic. I got cash. I want this washing machine. I want this fridge. I deserve it. I spent the whole COVID in the same pajamas and I never washed them. They walked away themselves.
Yep.
$200. Today, that is not the case.
No.
All this talk about tariffs being inflationary based on our research is ridiculous. Okay? People, is something out there called substitution of goods.
Yep.
If you don't have the money today, when you look at drained cash coffers, credit card balances at an all-time high, and delinquencies picking up, and what? How much of the country live in paycheck to paycheck?
70%.
Yeah, I don't think that's recovered any other,
No.
Any Democrat administration. Okay, that has not changed, and frankly, it hasn't changed any of the Republican. I mean, this is how people live. We looked at the median retirement savings for people aged 55 to 64, not average, median. What's that median, Jonathan? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head, no, I don't, Rich.
$89,000.
That was much less than I would have guessed. Wow.
Average, obviously higher, because skewed by super savers and people who do save responsibly. But for the most part, unfortunately, Social Security has become the pension.
Yes.
That's not the way it was designed, but that's life. That's how we're looking right now.
It was designed to be, 40% of your retirement income?
Exactly.
Most people use it as their entire retirement income.
Because at the time, the assumption was made that companies would keep pensions and not go to defined contribution plans. And by the way, if you have a defined contribution plan like a 401k, that has more holes to take money out than Swiss cheese. I need a hardship withdrawal. I want to buy a home for the... Look, why should I take money out of my retirement savings? Why should I get a break to buy a house? Who's the lobbyist that got that in place?
I don't know, but he was paid well.
If I have to take the money out of my 401k to put my down payment,
You shouldn't be buying that house.
I shouldn't be buying that house.
That's right.
It's like we're mind melding. Ooh.
Vulcan.
I'm like the Kirk to your Spock.
I am that big of a
I
nerd.
am your friend.
Oh, yes.
Remember? That scene in Wrath of Khan? So William Shatner was in town like last year. And at the Sugarland, what is that? The Discover Center or whatever. And he was doing a talk. I got to tell you the story because the guy is over 90-something years old, and he was exhausting me.
Still going,
walking back and forth on the stage and talking and so fluid in his thoughts, more than I am this morning. This does relate to money. Everybody calm down. Okay? We're also trying to give you a little entertainment, right? Or I could yell at you like Chris does, because I like Chris so much. I do. And I missed him being on the radio this morning, because otherwise I'd be sleeping in already. All right, you stay tuned. We'll be back.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Social Security Fairness Act dropped elements that reduced Social Security payments, retroactive to last year.
What are you going to do with all that extra income?
Our next Candid Coffee offers savvy Social Security planning if you were dinged by windfall and pension offsets.
Saturday, March 29th.
Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff answer your questions about Social Security benefits and what the removal of WEP GP and GPO means for your retirement. Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Register today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Attention Chevron employees and anyone else receiving or considering a company severance package. We know the process can be intimidating. What should you know to maximize your payout? Lump sum or pension annuity, retirement plan rollover or not? What about tax timing your severance? The fiduciary advisors at RIA Advisors can help you make the best decisions for your situation. Call us today at 855-742-7526. That's 855-742-PLAN. Or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
RIA Advisors Research is the envy of the industry. Our economic insights are featured on advisorperspectives.com, Fox Business, and MarketWatch. RIA provides advisors with marketing and back office support, objective research, and holistic, cutting-edge financial planning tools to meet your clients' needs. Want to join a winning team and be part of a fiduciary culture where you can do your best work? Then why haven't you contacted us yet? Go to our confidential advisor hub at realinvestmentadvice.com. RIA Advisors. Big enough where it matters, agile enough when it counts.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. A passive investment portfolio requires active risk management. It's not a choice, it's necessity. Diversification doesn't protect against risk of loss. Let us actively help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
Well, there's a method to my madness of where I'm going with this, even though I don't know yet, nor does my counterpart here, Jonathan McCarty.
Just go with it.
Yeah. Lance Roberts, realinvestmentadvice.com. Some of you listen to Lance at 6 o'clock hour. Go sign up for his newsletter. Lance is writing every day. A lot of other pundits on the station, Chris X, Chris Salcedo will always call Lance if they want to get an economic perspective. So I went to this William Shatner thing, and I took my girlfriend, Amy, with me, and we're literally almost in the front row. And I didn't know that they were going to be playing the Wrath of Khan movie in its entirety. I just thought it was a William Shatner talk. So we sat there for the whole film, and she's looking at me like, oh, my gosh, really?
What did you take me to?
And I'm crying. You know, when he goes in there and he can't get out of the nuclear or whatever, and he's all peeling, and it's, I shall and will always be your friend. And I'm bawling. And the kids in front of me that are 5 years old, that was great that their dads, or their grandparents dragged them to see this, right? Turn around and look at me like, look at this freak. What's he crying at? I'm not kidding. I was
very
like,
moving moment.
It is. I mean, that was one of the best moments in cinematic history. The amazing part of that was the stamina of a 90-plus-year-old man at 9:30, and I'm yawning because I'm tired, and he's walking back and forth, talking about every different scene in the movie and how they did it and it just shows you how important planning for retirement is, but also considering longevity risk.
That's right.
It is amazing how many people we talk to know exactly when they're going to die. Oh, no, I'm not going to live that long. My parents lived until they're like 60 years old. So, I'm on borrowed time. Listen, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, most of your longevity that you will see in your lifetime is based on lifestyle.
That's right.
Studies show that about 20%, generally speaking, if you look at Dave Asprey and a lot of other writers, Peter Attia, great writer, great doctor, he talks about that, there is obviously congenital issues that you need to be concerned about, but it's mostly your lifestyle until you hit like 95. So like the centenarians, those people that live at that point, that is genetic. But before that, it's really what you do to stay active every day.
Yeah.
So you should be preparing for outliving your money, because if you're gone, who cares? But you also have a spouse possibly to look after. If your spouse is a woman, she's going to outlive you by 7 years, and you might want to prepare for you and your spouse. That's very important. I've noticed that longevity risk when it comes to financial planning, when people want to retire at 60, and I say, well, we have something out there. You may all want to look at it this weekend called Living to 100. That's 100.com. 40 questions from Dr. Thomas Peel about your lifestyle, your illnesses, to give you an approximate of how long you may live. And if that is correct, you have to plan accordingly.
That's right.
One of the ways you do that is by how you claim Social Security. So at our shop, with Lance Roberts, we study Social Security. We study the trust fund, and we understand. Chris Salcedo talks about it a lot. So does Lance. We've got a real problem in a decade where you can get a 20% haircut to benefits. And that's not chump change, because if you look at the stats, you have a majority of older Americans who depend on Social Security for their day-to-day living. Not only that, if you've been a super saver, you max out your 401k plans, you put money away in after tax, you do whatever you can to save. You've been a high wage earner over the last few decades. Take a look at SSA.gov. Take a look at that Social Security statement at full retirement age and age 70. It's not chump change. Even the most successful of plans, I noticed, Jonathan, that are marginal, even with people who save, because they also have spending expectations.
Yes.
Once you include Social Security, it really adds another level of comfort to their lives, even if they have enough money to be self-sustaining on like a stocks and bond portfolio.
Right.
So it's never going to go to the way Chris wants it. Chris Salcedo, it's not going to go to where it's going to go into your hands. It's not. Would I like that? Yeah, sure. I would have loved that, because I know I would have invested it responsibly. But that's just not the way it's going to go. So we have to work at ways to fortify that system for people who paid into it and need to get that money back. And if they don't get it back, their spouse does. But the one thing we look at Social Security as is a break even. And this is where I want to help people understand. For a lot of people taking Social Security for retirement age, they look at their break even and go, well, I'll get all my money back at probably around age 84.
Yep, 83, 84.
Right?
Yep, give or take.
But I noticed a couple of flaws with this. One is they don't consider the joint life expectancies, because there are spousal and survivor benefits that carry on that you may not be aware of. So you're not considering that. Also, you have to consider that it's really like a longevity annuity. Say you live to 95 years old and you take Social Security full retirement age, or you wait till age 70. And if you wait to age 70, that means you get a higher survivor benefit for your spouse, especially if that spouse has not paid into the system as much as you have. You look at lump summing that number, which is what we do. And it's millions of dollars.
It is.
Okay, may not be as much as if you had the money you invested in the market at that time. I agree. But it's still, when you look at that number and realize, if I make a dumb mistake, do not take this properly for me and my spouse, I could be leaving 6 figures
On the table.
on the table.
Yep.
And I'm not talking $100,000. I'm talking $500,000, $600,000. The longer you live, the longer your spouse lives, the higher the return that you're going to get.
Especially if there's a large age gap between you and your spouse.
Now,
Then
that
even more
has
important.
become even more common. You 60-year-old studs out there, you're marrying some 35-year-olds, and you're having kids. John is like, how is he doing that? That's exhausting. It's just a fact of life. If we're going to plan for that, I'm not worried about the 60-year-olds' Social Security as much as I am the surviving spouse, and the children.
That's right.
No offense to you, Mr. Studley. I am more concerned about who you leave behind, right? I mean, listen, Tony Randall, he was having kids up, I think he was like 90.
I mean, we talked about
Al
before,
Pacino,
Al Pacino. Yep.
Robert De Niro.
Yep.
I mean,
Although I don't think their financial plan much relies upon Social Security, but it's still a good point.
I don't know. Did you read about Al Pacino? Like how many times he went broke? He took movies that he really didn't want to be in just for the money.
The Nicolas Cage approach, yes.
I do not know. Listen, and everybody out there listening, okay? If you listen to Chris Salcedo, you're smart people. And you're probably financially responsible too, because we know the government isn't. How do you blow? I mean, I would pull a groin muscle, as Archie Bunker would call groin, going through the multiple millions of dollars that Al Pacino had to go through to take movies that he didn't like.
You know, he's a real method actor, and I think just Scarface just stuck with him a little too long.
You think that's what it was?
Could have been that.
He had to have all those gold statues, and I just think that I know. Now, people are going to hate this, but Taylor Swift. Not a big music fan of Taylor Swift, but her dad seems to be a pretty good business person.
He was a Merrill advisor.
He was.
He was a Merrill advisor.
So when Sam Bankman, right, didn't he go to her for some mega amount of money for his crappy fund that went bust, right? And what did she tell him? My dad said. She blamed it on her dad.
Mm-hmm.
That these are these registered securities? Are they liquid? She had all based on him.
She brought the receipts.
Says, I'm sorry, but we're not doing that. That, to me...
Turned out to dodge a bullet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only from a financial perspective, but all the negative...
Reputational harm, yeah.
That went with that, right? Because maybe all the basketball stars promoting crypto, Matt Damon's out there.
Got caught.
If
Tom
Matt
Brady.
Damon's promoting something, man, run. Go the other way. Unless it's a Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck, like go ahead and get yourself a cappuccino. Al Pacino so broke he did a Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Ouch.
A Pacino cappuccino. A Pacino cappuccino. And he's dancing with a cappuccino. That's how broke he is. I don't want to be a star of The Godfather dancing with my crappuccino.
Talk about singing for your supper.
Oh, my goodness. Singing from my caffeine, right? So I consider all the listeners good stewards. So the news this morning, and we're going to talk about this on futures being down this morning, especially Dow futures, not S&P, which is a broader representation of the market. Those futures are up about 5 points. Dow futures down 221 points. There's a particular reason why, and we want to share that with you when we get back. Stay tuned.
The Real Investment Advice blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Social Security Fairness Act dropped elements that reduced Social Security payments, retroactive to last year.
What are you going to do with all that extra income?
Our next Candid Coffee offers savvy Social Security planning if you were dinged by windfall and pension offsets.
Saturday, March 29th.
Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff answer your questions about Social Security benefits and what the removal of WEP and GPO means for your retirement. Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Register today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Attention Chevron employees and anyone else receiving or considering a company severance package. We know the process can be intimidating. What should you know to maximize your payout? Lump sum or pension annuity, retirement plan rollover or not? What about tax timing your severance? The fiduciary advisors at RIA Advisors can help you make the best decisions for your situation. Call us today at 855-742-7526. That's 855-742-PLAN. Or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
Are you a financial advisor sneaking peeks at our stuff? Instead of trying to do it all yourself, why not just join the team at RIA Advisors? Our full-service organization can provide you with the support, unparalleled research, and tools for managing your clients' money and honoring the fiduciary pledge of putting clients' best interest first. Don't take our word for it. Talk to the advisors that work with us. Want to come win with us? Go to our confidential advisor hub at realinvestmentadvice.com. RIA Advisors, big enough where it matters, agile enough when it counts.
Can't catch the whole show now? Listen to our podcast later at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You know, there's been lots of debates over shutting down Department of Education, and that's really failed as a government agency to ensure that our children are getting a good education. Well, I have further proof it's probably a good idea that we try something different.
The Real Investment Show podcast.
I noticed this morning as I was getting ready for work, I looked at the milk carton and it said expiration date, February the 30th.
Same show, your schedule.
Just curious who was putting the expiration dates on the milk.
At realinvestmentadvice.com.
Apparently I have milk that either never expires.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Bulls win in bull markets. Bears win in bear markets. Eagles soar above and take advantage of opportunity. Let us help you soar as you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
If you're working and looking to retire soon, a Medicare special enrollment period is in your future. Understanding Medicare choices, enrollment deadlines, and costs are essential to your overall standard of living in retirement. The wrong choices can cost you thousands in penalties. Make sense of Medicare's alphabet soup with RIA Advisors' online resources and one-on-one partners to help secure the healthcare insurance choice that is right for your lifestyle and budget and avoid gaps in coverage. Click on the insurance tab at realinvestmentadvice.com today. realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show YouTube channel has all our videos ready for your easy access. Subscribe and bookmark our YouTube channel at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Rosso, Certified Financial Planner with Jonathan McCarty. Thank you for being with us this morning. Chris should be back on Monday. So Dow Jones futures are down 221 points. That's because of United Health Group, which is down about 11 points. So the DOJ is investigating Medicare billing practices at United Health Group, and it's really based on their Medicare Advantage plans that there were certain, let's say, surgeries and diagnoses that required people get these lucrative tests or lucrative diagnoses, revenue generating, especially for organizations that United Health Group owned. Now, I don't think that's the case with all Medicare Advantage plans, right? But you do have this looking up to say, hey, what's going on that you're asking about these specific diagnoses? And a lot of doctors have come out, some nurses have come out, nurse practitioners that suggested diagnoses or diagnosis and the role of United Healthcare manager who urged her to make a new diagnosis beyond what the doctors had treated. So once you go into that zone, something is wrong.
Yeah.
With that being said, the fact that Luigi Mangione dude who shot the CEO has a GoFundMe page with over $500,000 is enough to make me. Yeah, good thing I didn't have breakfast this morning.
Well, you know, he was being treated better than Puff Daddy, and Puff was very upset about that.
Was he?
He was, yeah. Yeah, he was being treated like less of a celebrity than Luigi Mangione. He did not like it.
That GoFundMe goal is $1 million.
That's insane.
And if you're donating to that, you really should be looking in the mirror as to what kind of person am I?
Yeah.
I understand. Listen, I understand the demonization of healthcare insurers. I understand how, with this United Health Group story, it's a terrible thing. It's a predatory action. There's no excuse for that.
Well, and I don't remember which governor it was. I think it was the governor of Kansas or Illinois was talking about starting to audit healthcare companies that are denying claims, specifically claims that resulted in death. And there's I don't remember which governor it was, but one of the governors is pushing for their state to be the first state in the nation that will audit denied healthcare claims for appropriateness.
Now, that's okay. Let me ask you this. If the government was handling your health care, how fast would they put you out to pasture?
Yeah, ask anyone who lives in the Scandinavian countries. They'll let you know.
On how long? I mean, for life-saving treatment.
Not even life-saving. I had a friend who was from Sweden, waited 2.5 years to get knee surgery.
Wow. Unless, I bet, I mean, I don't know. They have some form of private insurance that allows that process to be expedited. I know it's like that in some European countries. So if you think the government's going to keep you alive, you're wrong. But this is wrong, okay? Diagnoses. So Medicare Advantage, we're Medicare specialists also at here, and you might have a relative that is on Medicare Advantage, and or you are looking at Medicare Advantage. Listen, there's nothing wrong with doing your homework on Medicare Advantage, right? When you get Medicare, you are getting Swiss cheese. You got Medicare A, you got Medicare Part B, but there are a whole slew of things that are not covered that you need supplemental coverage. Medicare Advantage has been a one-stop shop where I can not only get everything done and probably have no deductible, but guess what? I may get a smartwatch and a gym membership. And listen, you know what I've noticed? The advertising, speaking of William Shatner, all my idols, Jimmy J.J. Walker, William Shatner, they were Joe Namath. They're cool gifts, part of the pitch. You know, you grew up with these people, right? Like Joe Namath. I've noticed those ads are, even there through Medicare open enrollment, zip! Don't see a lot of celebrity so-called endorsements, paid endorsements for these products anymore.
Well, I think that's maybe because you don't need as much advertising for something like Medicare versus something like Medicare Advantage. I think there's a lot.
Well, I mean, but Medicare Advantage, that's what they were advertising.
Okay.
Oh, and they're not doing that as much anymore. And I think it's because of the crackdown. Because what I've noticed, like when Joe Namath did it, like at the end when they give you the phone number, they had like American flags around. It almost looked like it was a government-driven kind of thing. So, listen, everybody wants to get their share of the buck, and you got to do it ethically. Okay, so enrollment in Medicare Advantage or these all-in-one plans have doubled over the last decade, and there's a lot of competition for them. UnitedHealthCare, I mean, go ahead and look it up. Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yep.
They all have different things. But you have to remember, you have to stick within your network. Your HMO, your PPO network. If your doctor or your hospital or your physician is at a network, you need to understand the ramifications of that. Now, there are people, listen, retirement's tough. They're cash flow constrained. They're relatively healthy. They don't go to the doctor often. They may take advantage of some of the perks. They're okay with Medicare Advantage, and guess what they do every year? They shop it. They shop it to see if they're getting the best deal, or is there something better, because they have the ability to switch between October 15th and December 7th.
Well, one of the drawbacks of Medicare Advantage is even if when you first sign up for Medicare Advantage, your current providers are in network, they may not be in network in subsequent years. There's no requirement that they stay in that Medicare Advantage network. So
That's
you may be left finding a new physician either way.
Here's the most important thing you need to know. You're about to turn 65 years old, right? Or, so you will go through what we call an initial enrollment. Or you work for a big company. How many people really retire at 65 today? Not many. And, you got coverage through work. That's fine. But then when you're ready to leave, you have a special enrollment period. through that period, you're going to sign up for this whole soup of Medicare. But you got to get supplemental coverage. And if you get something called Medigap coverage, which is going to closely resemble what you've been doing at work, open architecture, your doctor will take it. There is no pre-existing condition clause. Okay? It's very important. So people go, listen, it's more expensive than Medicare Advantage. I don't have any deductibles. I'm going to go with that. Well, if you do get a life-changing or life-altering illness, you may never get back on that kind of policy that you want. Because remember, you're going to be dictated by the HMO or PPO network. So if there's a treatment, you can go ahead and argue it. But most likely they're going to say, sorry, we don't accept that treatment. And you're not going to be able to get back onto a Medigap policy. So once you make that Medicare Advantage decision, outside your window, you better stay healthy if you ever want to go back. Or at least look at a Medigap policy.
Or go back before you find out you're not healthy.
Exactly. Do you know how many people that I've talked to said, oh my gosh, I don't like this treatment. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to get back on I'm going to try to go back to that Medigap that you talk about. I'm like, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late. You've got to work with people that will help you understand the different enrollment periods, not missing those periods because there are premature penalties for that. Well, actually not premature. They're just ongoing penalties for being late with your signups. You got to make sure that you're making those right decisions.
That's right.
Listen, they're not pleasant. I mean, it's like a chore, but you need help doing that. We also can help you with that. The most important part is, and I talked about this with William Shatner, is you keep your mind engaged. You listen to talk radio. You get all riled up, right? But you're doing your homework. You might do reading. You keep your mind engaged. That keeps you healthy long term, along with some form of physical endeavor.
Pilates.
You doing Pilates?
No. Look at this body, Rich. I'm not doing Pilates.
Well, I mean, I would like to see it.
I'm doing
It'd be
pitas.
pretty funny. We would, if any of the audience, you're doing pitas. He's doing, that's pretty funny.
Yep.
With that, the show's over.
And I'm spent, folks.
I'm doing, oh no, have you heard about that new workout called PETA?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very filling.
Very filling.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what you fill it with. Yeah. You know what I've noticed for people who are older? Stretching is absolutely essential.
Yep.
I mean, I wake up in the morning and it's like, is that the house creaking or me? Having some form of stretch when you go through your process in the morning especially. I actually do it when I listen to Chris Salcedo. Stretching, that's a whole thing. You could buy the DVDs, Stretching with Chris.
It's a hot commodity.
While he's yelling about John Cornyn, we're stretching. Every time Chris says John Cornyn, we stretch. So it works out really well. So one of the things you got to keep in mind is you might be we'll talk about this when we get back. Stay tuned. We're glad you're here. I got 45 seconds. Hi, everybody. Oh, man. I don't want to go outside again until the temperature is above my age. That's what I'm going to say before we go. We'll be back.
daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Social Security Fairness Act dropped elements that reduced Social Security payments, retroactive to last year.
What are you going to do with all that extra income?
Our next Candid Coffee offers savvy Social Security planning if you were dinged by windfall and pension offsets.
Saturday, March 29th.
Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff answer your questions about Social Security benefits and what the removal of WEP and GPO means for your retirement. Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Register today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Attention Chevron employees and anyone else receiving or considering a company severance package. We know the process can be intimidating. What should you know to maximize your payout? Lump sum or pension annuity, retirement plan rollover or not? What about tax timing your severance? The fiduciary advisors at RIA Advisors can help you make the best decisions for your situation. Call us today at 855-742-7526. That's 855-742-PLAN. Or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
RIA Advisors Research is the envy of the industry. Our economic insights are featured on advisorperspectives.com, Fox Business, and MarketWatch. RIA provides advisors with marketing and back office support, objective research, and holistic, cutting-edge financial planning tools to meet your clients' needs. Want to join a winning team and be part of a fiduciary culture where you can do your best work? Then why haven't you contacted us yet? Go to our confidential advisor hub at realinvestmentadvice.com. RIA Advisors. Big enough where it matters, agile enough when it counts.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Manage risk and volatility rather than trying to manage gains. You don't have to be right all the time. Long-term investing success is a 70% gain. Let us help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
And welcome back. So, hope everybody's got a good weekend planned. Anything for you, Jonathan?
Yes, nesting.
Nesting.
Yeah, my wife has a honey-do list as long as my arm in preparation for the baby we're expecting.
You know, it's exciting and horrifying all at the same time to have a child.
That's pretty much how I feel every day, yes.
I have one, and I was happy to have one. I think my marriage ended when she said, I think I want another one. And I went as a financial planner and calculated how much that would cost and said,
That's it.
Such a romantic.
Yep.
Such a romantic. Hey, raising kids, lots of money, right? Buying a house takes a lot.
Yep. And raising kids, lots of money and potentially not much of a return on that investment. So.
Let's play that for the wife later. Take a note, Brent. Let's play that later.
Thankfully, she never listens to what I say, so even if you played it, I don't think she'd hear it.
You know how some husbands have dog houses in the backyard? Jonathan has a dog house, condos. Mm-hmm. He rents them, but most of the time he's occupying them all. That's okay. She will never. She'll forget all those things you tell her.
Once the epidural hits?
Yeah. No, when she's gone forever, that's when she's going to forget all the things you've done. So when you look at retirement, what is it really about? It's about income, right? It's how much money you want. How much money am I going to get from Social Security? How much money am I going to take from my variable assets like stocks and bonds? Do I have a pension? Are you one of those people that have what we call a pension? Not many companies have pensions anymore, right? So in 2022, 11% of private industry employees in the United States had an employer pension. Most participated in what we call a defined contribution plan, right? That's your 401k, your 403b. So there was a study done, and this sort of makes sense, I think, intuitively. People who had a guaranteed income stream, whether it's pension, whether it's Social Security, along with buying an annuity, lifetime annuity, they felt the ability that they could spend more. In other words, if you transfer the risk of an unknown lifespan to an institution like a pension, the federal government, the insurance company, most risk-averse retirees who don't transfer that risk and they just depend on their portfolio, well, guess what? They might adjust their spending depending on the market cycle.
Yeah.
Because what I have noticed, and this is what's interesting, when you're putting all your assets together, when you feel about when me and my spouse go, what's the ultimate goal? Do I want to leave a legacy? That means I want to leave a specific dollar amount to my children and my grandchildren, or whatever's left is left. That seems to be the majority of people. Listen, I'm not going to be a burden on my kids. I've saved enough. If there's money left, by all means, you have it. But I'm not setting aside money for you. Those people that were on what I call the spend down plan, and they don't like that because they have this benchmark that they started with when they first retired, and now they're drawing from it. They want that number to be set in stone.
Yep.
If I have $500,000, just in the number, $500,000, and I generate income from that $500,000, in 10 years, I want that $500,000 to be $500,000.
Yep.
It may not be. It may not be. And by the time I'm into my retirement, 20 or 30 years, it most certainly will not be. It's very tough for people to understand that as I dwindle away, my nest egg does.
Yes.
Not as fast as me, right? It's a race. Who's going first? Hopefully I'm going before the portfolio goes. But that's a psychological issue, don't you think so?
It is.
Jonathan, to see that when that number goes on. I had one client said, I don't even like that word. I don't like those words, spend down. I don't want to spend it down. That's what it's there for. The tree grew, the fruit's on it, you're picking. You're in harvest season. That emotionally is very challenging.
Well, especially in down markets. You know, you talk about people wanting that $500,000 to be there, but even when markets are down, they're even less inclined to take from that.
That's right. They're less inclined to take that withdrawal rate. So think about this. If I had a pension, I'd be thankful I've got that money that I can never outlive, me or my spouse possibly, depending on how I select my settlement options. And I don't have to worry. If I'm getting $2,000 a month, if I get $2,000 in January, I spend it all, it's coming in February. So what this study shows is that people with guaranteed income, quite frankly, they spend more because they know they can't outlive the cash flow.
That's right.
This gamble of how long you're going to live and how long your portfolio is going to live. Yeah. Do we do some we do calculations. It's not a computer linear calculation, but think about the unknown that goes into these equations, these simulations that we do. We can only guesstimate how long you're going to live and how long the portfolio is going to live and what your spending behavior is going to be like. Thankfully, there are enough academic studies to give us an idea how people really spend in retirement. When you first retire, you're going to be active. You're going to be doing things.
The go-go years.
The go-go years. You're going to be spending some money. Then you're going to go through a period, and I spoke with a client yesterday, says, Rich, I have a required minimum distribution. I really didn't do much last year. I mean, I didn't travel. I used to go out to eat. You know, I do once in a while. I actually made more than what my required minimum distribution is. You will go through a long period of time in your life when you're retired. You're not unhealthy. But, you know, sort of been there, done that. How many times am I going to go to Italy? How many times am I going to do make certain extravagant trips? You're in this groove, and you are there for a long time until your spending starts to pick up, and that's some of the out-of-pocket healthcare costs, or what we call long-term care costs, that pick up. So you got to add this level of realism to spending. But it is, in this study, it really shows you that a retiree with similar annuitized wealth will spend more than a retiree with an equal amount in, say, investments. So in other words, I got $500,000 in a portfolio of stocks and bonds. I've got $500,000 in an income annuity that pays me X amount per month. Studies show the lifestyle of the retiree who's got all that money in their guaranteed income spend more.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think that clearly illustrates what we see, in this country currently. I mean, what, $50 trillion is set to be passed down by the baby boomers over the next 20 years?
Because they thought that they were going to outlive their funds.
Yep. So they didn't spend.
And they may have deprived themselves of the lifestyle that they wanted because their assets go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we plan looking forward. We look at the stock market, obviously, this year, even though it's more volatile, and we have to remember that all this tariff talk is going to cause volatility. The difference is it may not be inflationary because people do not have the money to just go out and buy certain goods. There's something called substitution of goods. What tariffs could do is not increase inflation, but actually reduce profits. And that is a problem because that means that obviously if you're in the stock market and profit expectations where they are, you are set for disappointment. So you see, sometimes what's good for Main Street is not good for Wall Street, right? Do you remember when Biden came out and they're all talking about how, oh, these billionaires, I hate these billionaires. Did you see how much wealth the billionaires built through the Biden period? $1.3 trillion?
Staggering.
More wealth to the higher end under Biden administration compared to any other administration. The president of the people helped the billionaires the most. You may have a president that now is looking at Main Street more, which means that we'll create friction with Wall Street, right? Now, we went from a government stimulus-driven economy, and we want to hand it over to the private sector. That transition may be sloppy. It's going to create uncertainty in your portfolio. It's going to create uncertainty on how much retirement income that you're going to want to take from your portfolio. You may not have a year of returns that you had last year. We call it curb your enthusiasm. It has nothing to do with the job that the president's doing. It has to do with the fact that the Fed probably doesn't need to cut rates, which the market is addicted to, like Jonathan and Peters. Very addicted. The market's got to break that addiction to the Fed and start looking at what it used to look at. But we've had such great growth in earnings, but now with tariffs, it could put a crimp in margins. When I listen to conference calls, read transcripts, the one thing that we're seeing, and this excludes small business that does have not very little pricing power, a lot of larger companies do not have the pricing power they did before.
Yeah, not anymore.
Longer term, by the way, this isn't inflationary. This is disinflationary. So some people go, well, I want it to be deflationary. No, you don't. If it's deflationary, and take a look at deflationary cycles like during the Depression, that means we're in a contraction or recession. So deflation, that's not what you want. So when you build your retirement income masterpiece, it's a group of things. It's never perfect. It's your stocks and bonds, your pension, taking your Social Security, and possibly later in life an annuity. That's all we got. Wake up, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Chris Salcedo will be back on Monday. Lance Roberts, tune in 6 a.m. before Chris on Monday. Thanks again.